Formula may first look like a competition between the fastest machines on Earth. But Formula One itself does not own the cars, employ the drivers, or run the teams. Yet in 2025, the business behind the championship generated nearly $3.9 billion. That is because Formula One is not primarily a racing team. It is the commercial rights machine wrapped around the entire sport. Cities pay to host it. Broadcasters pay to show it. Sponsors pay to be seen beside it. Wealthy guests pay for access around it. And every contract becomes more valuable because only 24 race weekends exist. The speed attracts attention, but scarcity turns that attention into a business. The first Formula One World Championship race took place at Silverstone in 1950. For decades, the championship grew from a collection of dangerous European contests into a global television spectacle. The crucial product was never one particular car. It was the championship itself, the calendar, the rules, the rivalries, the footage, and the right to call an event a Formula One Grand Prix. That distinction matters. The FIA governs the sport and writes the technical and sporting framework. The teams build cars and hire drivers. Formula One controls the commercial layer that connects the competition to broadcasters, promoters, sponsors, and fans. Under agreements that run through 2110, Formula One is recognized as the exclusive holder of the championship's commercial rights. It also owns copyright in race footage dating back to 1981. In other words, the company does not need to win on Sunday. It owns the package that makes every Sunday commercially valuable. When Liberty Media agreed to acquire Formula One, the transaction valued the business at roughly $8 billion including debt. Liberty was not buying factories that produced race cars. It was buying a global platform with a fixed number of premium events, decades of archive footage, and relationships that could be renewed at higher prices. The strategy was to make the sport easier to discover, easier to follow, and more valuable to commercial partners. Digital channels expanded. Social media became less restricted. Direct-to-consumer streaming grew. New races entered major destination cities. The Netflix era introduced drivers and team principals as characters rather than anonymous names behind helmets. None of those moves changed the basic engine. They increased the audience around an inventory that remained deliberately limited. A larger audience competing for the same calendar slots gives Formula One leverage over every group that needs access to the championship. The first major revenue stream is race promotion. A circuit owner, automobile club, private promoter, or government-backed organization wants a place on the Formula One calendar. Formula One grants the right to stage and promote the Grand Prix. The promoter usually sells local tickets, concessions, and some hospitality. But the promoter generally pays Formula One for the privilege of hosting the event. These agreements commonly run for 3 to 7 years, and fees often increase annually. The logic resembles a touring global franchise. A host is not simply renting a race. It is buying worldwide attention, tourism demand, corporate entertainment, and a place beside Monaco, Monza, and Silverstone. The limited calendar strengthens Formula One's negotiating position. In 2025 there were 24 races. Expanding beyond 24 under the new Concord structure requires support from 70% of the teams. Scarcity is therefore partly contractual. Formula One can use competition among cities to improve fees, facilities, and the visual quality of each event. The largest slice of 2025 revenue came from media rights. Broadcasters do not buy the championship permanently. They license the right to show races within a territory and language for a defined period. These contracts typically last 3 to 5 years and often become more expensive over time. Formula One had more than 50 broadcast agreements worldwide in 2025, alongside its own F1 TV subscription. Product. This is where ownership of the spectacle becomes powerful. Formula One produces the world feed, controls the archive, packages practice, qualifying, races, highlights, and data, then sells access market by market. One race can therefore be monetized repeatedly across many countries without creating another race. The production cost is substantial, but the same core event supports television contracts, streaming subscriptions, highlights, social clips, and archive licensing. Media rights represented 31.3% of Formula One revenue in 2025. The cars create the action once. The rights holder sells that action around the world. The third engine is sponsorship. Formula One offers something rare, a global audience, repeated live events, wealthy spectators, famous cities, advanced technology, and constant visual movement. Brands can buy trackside advertising, race title partnerships, global partner status, digital placements, and official supplier relationships. These contracts also commonly run for 3 to 5 years. Sponsorship contributed 21.7% of revenue in 2025, and it grew as new partners arrived and existing contracts became more valuable. The important point is that Formula One is not selling empty advertising space. It is selling association with speed, engineering, exclusivity, and international status. Every dramatic overtake creates television footage containing sponsor boards. Every podium produces photographs framed by partner logos. Every city race turns buildings, barriers, and hospitality suites into a branded stage. The audience watches the competition, the sponsor pays to inhabit the environment around it. The remaining revenue shows how many businesses can be layered onto the same weekend. Formula One sells high-end Paddock Club hospitality, helps move cars and equipment between continents, licenses the brand, operates support championships, and sells experiences in Las Vegas. Other revenue represented 20.3% of the 2025 total. Hospitality is particularly revealing. A normal spectator buys a view of the race. A corporate guest buys proximity, comfort, networking, food, access, and status. Both are watching the same event, but the willingness to pay is completely different. Formula One segments that demand without changing the core product. Freight works differently but follows the same principle. A championship that travels across multiple continents creates a logistical problem. Formula One can help coordinate the solution and earn revenue in the process. The complexity that could have been only a cost becomes another service attached to the platform. Most races are promoted by outside organizations. Las Vegas is the major exception. In 2025 it was the only Grand Prix directly promoted by Formula One. That means the company could keep ticketing, sponsorship, and hospitality revenue connected with the event. It also meant Formula One carried the burden of building and operating the circuit and paddock facilities. This is vertical integration, but only where the potential reward justifies the risk. On a normal weekend, Formula One receives a contractual fee while the local promoter absorbs much of the ticket sales risk. In Las Vegas, Formula One moves closer to the customer and captures more of the upside, but poor demand or high operating costs can hit the company directly. The contrast reveals how carefully the model allocates risk. Formula One usually sells the right to host the show. It only becomes the local showrunner when ownership of the full economics appears more attractive. A rights platform is powerful, but it cannot exist without compelling competition. Formula One therefore shares economics with the teams. In 2025, team payments reached $1.4 billion before one-time Concord incentives. Those payments help keep the grid strong, but they also expose a central tension. Formula One wants the championship to generate more money. Teams want a fair share because they create the cars, employ the stars, and bear the cost of competing. The Concord Agreement governs that relationship and commits. The current 11-team field through 2030. Formula One's mode is not that teams are replaceable. It is that the championship coordinates rivals who are more valuable together than apart. Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Red Bull, and the other teams compete fiercely on track while cooperating inside the same commercial ecosystem. The rights holder sits above that rivalry, packages it, and distributes part of the proceeds back to the participants. The model becomes stronger when each revenue stream reinforces the others. Better racing and stronger stories attract more viewers. More viewers make broadcast contracts and sponsorships more valuable. Global exposure makes cities more eager to host a race. Better host offers improve the calendar and create more attractive television. Premium events increase hospitality demand. Digital content brings new fans into the funnel between race weekends. That cycle explains why the same 24 events can support almost $4 billion of annual revenue. It also explains the risks. A weak championship can reduce audiences. Cancelled races can trigger lower broadcaster payments. Promoters can struggle with costs. Sponsors can leave. Teams can fight over revenue distribution. Formula One must preserve competitive drama while resisting the temptation to overload the calendar or extract too much from any partner. The company is selling scarcity, but scarcity only works when the product remains culturally important. So Formula One's real product is not a car. It is controlled access to a global story. The teams build the machines. The drivers create the heroes. The circuits provide the stage. Formula One bundles those ingredients into scarce race weekends and sells different forms of access to cities, broadcasters, sponsors, and guests. In 2025 that system produced $3.873 billion of revenue and $946 million of adjusted OIBDA. The checkered flag ends the race, but the contracts keep running for years. That is why Formula One can make billions without owning the cars. If you want more breakdowns of the hidden systems behind famous companies, subscribe to Business Breakdown and watch the next case study.